Gordon Sondland has been an interesting figure in all of this. He was someone whose testimony we know had contradicted that of several other witnesses. And reading the transcripts here, his memory appears to get weaker and weaker as we get closer to the present day. But now an official familiar with his testimony tells us he did, in fact, come back after reading the publicly released opening statements of several other witnesses and amend his testimony in one crucial way. He says he now remembers a discussion with a top Ukrainian official about the necessity of this public statement talking about investigations broadly, Burisma specifically, as being a contingent factor for aid for further engagement with the White House. As you read these two transcripts as a whole, they paint a really interesting picture. We started yesterday with the introduction of Rudy Giuliani as someone who was clearly meddling around the edges of U.S. foreign policy in Ukraine. These two transcripts both show Giuliani having a much more central role, with diplomats aware that every decision had to go through him or that he was the conduit to the President of the United States on this decision making. And they describe a continuum over time where at first there were concerns about investigations, looking backwards at 2016, then his engagement with Ukraine and the new post-Yovanovitch, more Giuliani-centric policy team from the White House got further. Those requests for Ukraine got more specific, were more focused on Burisma. It was only until later that these two witnesses connected Burisma with the Bidens in any way, but they were involved in conditioning a deliverable, is the term that's used here, from Ukraine, both to set up an eventual White House meeting and then, as we learn later, the connection to this military aid. These two transcripts go much, much more centrally to the core issues on the impeachment inquiry than anything we've read so far.
All right, so let's look at those very specifically, and I want to get your take on this, Joel Rubin. It starts with the question, there were demands, weren't there, that an investigation take place of 2016 or Burisma. Ultimately, those were demands, were they not? Ultimately, yes, is the answer. It's fair to say you had to navigate those demands. You had to accommodate what the president and his lawyer wanted. If you were going to set up this meeting you thought very important, answer, I think that's fair. But I think you said, Ambassador, that over time things got more and more insidious. I think those were your words. It started out with no conditions, and then there was a condition for investigation into the corruption, and then there was a condition of an investigation into 2016 and Burisma, and then on the call itself it became clear the condition was investigation of 2016 and the Bidens. I think you described that as becoming more and more insidious. Correct? The answer, that's correct. Joel.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.